Hey, this is Brooke, functional medicine dietitian specializing in fertility, and this is the Fertility Dietitian podcast, where I help you uncover the barriers that are preventing you from optimizing your fertility and teach you how to work with your body to finally take home a healthy baby. Each week, I will be diving into different topics on fertility and sharing my perspective on physiology, metabolic health, nutrition, and lifestyle approaches that have helped hundreds of couples get pregnant even after years of heartache. My goal is to empower you with the knowledge you need to take back control of your fertility. Happy listening. If you are over 35 and trying to conceive, you've probably heard that fertility declines with age. But the conversation around age and fertility is often very incomplete because age alone is not the whole story. What matters more is the environment your eggs and sperm are developing in. And that environment is influenced by inflammation, oxidative stress, nutrient status, metabolic health, sleep, and stress patterns. There's actually a term used in research called inflammaging. And inflammaging describes the slow rise in inflammation and oxidative stress that tends to happen as we get older. This process can influence mitochondrial function, hormone signaling, and even DNA stability. All of those things matter a lot for reproduction. Eggs and sperm are some of the most metabolically active cells in the body, and they rely heavily on mitochondria, which are the energy centers of the cell. And when inflammation and oxidative stress are high, that mitochondrial function declines and reproductive cells become more vulnerable. But here's the hopeful part. Your body is responsive to your environment. And when you improve the environment your reproductive cells are actually developing in, fertility can improve. Today, I wanted to talk through some of the most practical ways to reduce the impact of inflammaging on fertility after 35. Every person is unique, of course, so there's no single protocol that works for everyone. And the most effective approach is always going to be one that's individualized or tailored to you as an individual. But the steps we're going to talk through today are a really strong place to start. So first, let's talk a little bit about testing, because this can actually help you individualize your approach to you on your own. One of the biggest gaps that I see in conventional fertility is that we often jump straight to treatment without fully understanding the metabolic and inflammatory environment of the body. So I am always trying to learn how to better work with your body versus force reproduction into place. Many fertility workups focus on hormone levels and ultrasounds and maybe a semen analysis, and those can absolutely be helpful. And that data is great to have, but they rarely are telling us the whole story. There are several preconception labs that I run with almost every client because they provide insight into the inflammation and the nutrient status and the metabolic health that it's actually driving the quality of the egg and the sperm and influencing that environment they're developing in. These markers are really helpful in revealing underlying patterns that are influencing the overall egg quality, the sperm health, and even implantation too. So here are some of the key labs that I recommend assessing before conception. C-reactive protein, which is also known as CRP, is a marker of systemic inflammation. So even low-grade inflammation can influence ovulation, implantation, and early pregnancy development. When we see an elevated CRP, that's not where we stop. We look for where that inflammation is also coming from. So some of the other areas that it could be coming from include what's happening with iron balance. So ferritin, iron, and total iron binding capacity can be helpful for learning more about that iron balance, which matters for oxygen delivery, mitochondrial function. And both iron deficiency and excess iron can actually increase oxidative stress. So iron's pretty delicate. Most providers, especially conventionally trained providers, don't really know much about iron regulation, unfortunately, but it is a very, very important area to look into, as I see dysregulation here all of the time that's absolutely impacting the oxygen and nutrients that our eggs and our sperm are getting, but also the lining health and what's happening after fertilization is hopefully happening for conception. Okay, another area we want to make sure we're looking at is prolactin. Prolactin can rise in response to stress, metabolic dysfunction, or thyroid imbalance. And when it's elevated, it can disrupt ovulation and progesterone signaling. Thyroid antibodies, including TPO antibodies and thyroglobulin antibodies, are also important labs to look at because autoimmune thyroid patterns are often missed in basic thyroid screening and can actually influence fertility and miscarriage risk, and definitely influences that overall environment that your eggs or even sperm are developing in, and certainly impacts time to conception as well as the health of the pregnancy to or ability to carry to term. So thyroid deep dive is very important. Uric acid is often associated with gout, but it's also a marker of oxidative stress and metabolic dysfunction. Okay, so uric acid, getting that drawn in the blood is also really helpful because elevated levels are signaling underlying inflammation as well. And vitamin B12 and vitamin D are also playing key roles in DNA synthesis, methylation, immune regulation, and hormone signaling. So, all very helpful to see where your body's at and what we can do to help with those. Nutrients to testosterone and SHBG, which is sex hormone binding globulin, are really helpful for assessing androgen balance and insulin sensitivity, especially in women with symptoms of PCOS or metabolic dysfunction. But get those labs no matter what, even if you've been kind of labeled as unexplained or you have another diagnosis. Learning more about what's happening with androgen balance can be really helpful because they play a role in the quality of follicle maturation or egg quality as well as sperm health and sperm quality. They're playing a role on both sides there. A lipid panel is really important to look at too. Cholesterol and triglyceride patterns can reveal insulin resistance and metabolic inflammation as a whole. Cholesterol is really important for how we're building our hormones, how we're building our cells, and just plays a big role in a lot of pieces of the conception and fertility picture. Homocysteine is another important one. It's a marker connected to methylation and cardiovascular health. Elevated homocysteine levels can increase oxidative stress and are associated with poorer reproductive outcomes. So that is one we want to know about so we can better know how to support your body to improve that environment that eggs are maturing in. Fasting insulin is one of the most overlooked markers in fertility care, in my opinion, and a very simple lab to do. Insulin resistance increases inflammation, disrupts hormone signaling, and can impact egg and sperm quality. So fasting insulin is a different look at blood sugar than just a fasting glucose or even a hemoglobin A1C. A fasting insulin is actually going to catch insulin resistance earlier. And I also like to have that HOMA-IR calculated too, because that's going to tell us even more about what's happening with insulin sensitivity at a cellular level. Glucose can actually be within a normal range for up to a decade while insulin signaling is struggling. And it matters for fertility because anytime energy is being lost or inflammation is happening in the background, reproduction is going to struggle more. So we have to look at these things because they are part of that metabolic picture, part of that environment that our eggs and sperm are maturing in. We want to make it as easy as possible for good, healthy eggs and sperm to be developing because it not only decreases our time to conception, it greatly changes how easy it is to have a healthy pregnancy. It even changes the lifelong health of your future tiny humans. So knowing them before conception makes a big difference. And when you look at these markers all together, you begin to see a clearer picture of the internal environment your reproductive cells are developing in. And that allows us to create a plan that is way more specific to your body. So let's talk a little bit more about mitochondria. So egg cells contain more mitochondria, 10 times more mitochondria than almost any other cell in the body. And these mitochondria provide the energy required for chromosome separation and early embryo development. When mitochondrial function declines, egg quality declines with it. So supporting our mitochondrial health is one of the most impactful strategies for fertility over 35. An extra benefit is it supports longevity too. One nutrient that has strong research behind it is CoQ10 or coenzyme Q10. It's particularly helpful in the ubiquinol form versus the ubiquinone form. So take a look at the label. If you're already taking that, you want ubiquinol. CoQ10 helps support mitochondrial energy production and acts as an antioxidant within the cell. So we don't want to only rely on supplements, of course, but this is a big one that can really help you get more bang for your buck. Many fertility specialists recommend between 200 and 600 milligrams per day, depending on the individual situation. And of course, this should always be personalized based on what other types of support you're able to be doing for mitochondrial health too. Minerals are also very essential for mitochondrial function, including magnesium, zinc, selenium, copper, and iron, because they play roles in antioxidant enzymes and cellular energy production. And many people are very depleted in these key minerals due to stress, soil depletion, or restrictive diets. And this is one of the reasons that where mineral testing and targeted nutrition are so important and helpful. But we can do more with nutrition too. So let's talk a little bit more about diet and how to support this overall environment even more with diet. Food is one of the most effective ways to lower oxidative stress. And one of the simplest strategies is by increasing antioxidant-rich foods. So think bright colors, berries, leafy greens, especially the dark leafy greens, beets, carrots, sweet potatoes, citrus, pomegranates, all provide compounds that help neutralize oxidative stress. Things like herbs and spices used liberally are another way to really increase your antioxidant intake. Turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, oregano, rosemary, cloves all contain polyphenols that help reduce inflammation and support metabolic health in some really cool ways. Omega-3 fats are also very, very supportive. So these fats help regulate inflammatory signaling, supporting cell membrane health. You can get these fats from fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, and anchovies. These are going to be the best sources of your omega-3 fats. And of course, supplementation can help here too. The quality of your omega-3 supplement matters big time. Even if it's not suggested on the label to store it in the refrigerator, I always recommend storing your fish oil in the refrigerator because it's likely to oxidize after opened. Quality matters big time here. And dose can be individualized, should be individualized, because if you're getting 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish in a week, you definitely don't need supplementation the same as somebody who's allergic to fish and can't have any fish ever. Okay, so those are some of the heavy hitters with our diet. Another way that's really important to be supporting mitochondrial health and just that overall reproductive environment for improving or decreasing inflammaging is sleep. We have to talk about sleep. Sleep is one of the most overlooked fertility lifestyle interventions, in my opinion. Poor sleep increases cortisol, it disrupts insulin sensitivity, it raises inflammatory signaling. Because during sleep, the body actually repairs tissues, it regulates hormones, it clears oxidative byproducts. If there is one lifestyle change that you can make to have a profound impact on fertility, it's protecting your sleep. Simple strategies to support your sleep can include turning off your screens at least 60 minutes before bed, keeping your bedroom cool and dark, going to bed at a consistent time, getting morning sunlight after waking. These small habits can help regulate circadian rhythm and support hormone balance in really big ways. Okay, so sleep has to be part of the foundation for supporting this inflammaging picture. Movement also plays an important role too. Moderate intensity strength training helps improve insulin sensitivity. It supports mitochondrial function and reduces inflammation. Muscle tissue acts as a metabolic organ. So when you increase lean muscle mass, you improve glucose handling, reduce metabolic stress, and really just 2 to 4 sessions of strength training per week can make a really meaningful difference. The key is moderation. So excessive high intensity training can actually increase stress hormones and disrupt ovulation, especially in women who are already under stress or have a hard time eating enough regularly. So the balance is important there. Now I want to talk about another vitamin called vitamin J. Vitamin J stands for joy. This may sound simple, but it's actually deeply biological as well. Positive emotional states actually shift the nervous system out of fight or flight and into a more restorative state. So when that happens, inflammatory signaling decreases, parasympathetic activity increases, and the body is better able to repair and regulate your hormones. Joy is not a luxury when you are trying to conceive. It's actually part of the physiology that supports your fertility. Okay, so don't forget about vitamin J. And some of the most effective ways to increase vitamin J include laughter. Laughing lowers cortisol and helps calm the nervous system. So watch something funny, spend time with your good friends. Allow yourself to be playful and have measurable effects on decreasing the stress physiology that is potentially happening. Okay, infertility, struggling to get pregnant can be inherently stressful. So make that time to play, make that time to experience the joy. Okay, singing can also be supportive. It can stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps regulate that nervous system and reduce stress signaling. Having gratitude or practicing gratitude shifts in the brain towards safety and abundance rather than threat and scarcity. Even writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day can change that stress physiology as well. Orgasm and pleasurable intimacy can absolutely increase oxytocin and endorphins, both of which help counteract stress hormones and support bonding and relaxation. When you're trying to conceive, intimacy can become more of a chore or a job. Try to separate those things. Try to make it more playful, less scheduled around only being intimate around that fertile window. That can look like trying to be intimate outside of the baby dance, right? So the 6-second kiss in the morning, making sure or thinking about like writing little love notes to each other during the day, texting each other, holding hands, all of those intimacy things can help support the ultimate intimacy piece of the pleasurable orgasm intimacy as well. Okay, other things include time in nature. Spending time outside lowers cortisol, reduces inflammatory signaling. Even short walks in a natural environment can improve nervous system regulation too. Massage therapy can also improve circulation, reduce muscle tension, and support parasympathetic nervous system activity too. Walking also supports blood sugar regulation, lymphatic movement, stress reduction without increasing cortisol too. Something else that's not talked about very much that is really supportive for that vitamin J is sunlight. Morning sunlight especially helps regulate circadian rhythm, improves sleep quality, and supports hormone signaling, even supports sleep quality. I think I already said that, but that's a big one that it helps support. Also, meditation and deep breathing are also very supportive. They slow the nervous system, help shift the body into a state where healing and reproduction are more supportive. And all of these practices signal safety to the body. And the body prioritizes reproduction when it feels safe and nourished and supported. So the big takeaway from the conversation that I'd like you to have is fertility after 35 is not just about age. It's about the environment your reproductive cells are developing in. And when inflammation and oxidative stress are high, reproductive cells are more vulnerable. So when we support mitochondrial health, reduce inflammation, and improve metabolic stability, and bring more joy to our daily lives, fertility outcomes often improve drastically. Every person's plan should be individualized, but if you start with these foundations, testing the right lab, supporting mitochondrial health, eating antioxidant-rich foods, prioritizing sleep and strength training, regulating your nervous system, and making space for joy, you begin creating conditions that allow fertility to thrive. Your body is very responsive to your environment. And when you learn how to work with your body rather than against it, fertility becomes much more supportive. That is the goal of a root cause fertility approach, not forcing reproduction, but creating the internal conditions where healthy pregnancy can develop and thrive. I hope you found this episode helpful. And if you are looking for a more individualized approach to be able to have support with ordering and interpreting the testing, don't ever hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I hope you tune in next week. Share this episode with somebody who might find it helpful. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fertility Dietitian podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review to let me know what topics you want more of or less of. If you want to keep learning, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out my website for more info on my private coaching program, Master Your Fertility, or my membership community, Fertility Blueprint. And don't forget my digital store. Come say hi on YouTube and Instagram. See you in the next episode.